want you guys to be mad at me. I know we're all a little burnt out with politics. Trust me, the last 4 months has been wild. But we only have less than a week left. And just in case, I want to do my part. Just in case there's a few little trickling undecided voters, this one is for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about the hoax, which is identity politics. This is another one of those categories where the road to hell is paved with good intentions, just like the body positivity movement, just like the woke culture. Everything started off with good intentions, but as you know, the road to hell, whoo. Like I've always said, the Democrats love to play on people's emotions, on their fears, on their triggers. The left loves to weaponize human compassion and make people feel sorry for another race or another gender, which is kind of weird. That just causes division. When you make everything about race and gender, causes a lot of division and is racist and sexist, even though they say that to the other party.
Instead of the class warfare of Karl Marx, we've just replaced it with race warfare, gender warfare. I mean, just constantly pitting groups against each other, all in the name of what you just said, equity, which is not equal opportunities, it's equal outcomes. I think that's an important distinction.
Most of us were liberals when we were younger. A lot of us were liberals. One, the Democrat Party meant something completely different even just 10 years ago. It used to be the party for free speech, against big pharma, against big government. And that's not what it is anymore. That's more the conservative right side. There's a saying that I love that hits so close to home, but if you're a conservative before 30, then you have no heart. If you're a liberal after 30, then you have no brain. It is so true.
All right, Trump supporters, I'd like a little fucking clarification. Who's the enemy? Who's the enemy from within?
I think you might have those braids tied a little fucking too tight. The enemy from within is all the politicians that say that they have your best interests in mind, and then they turn their backs in private rooms and make policies that don't have your best interests in mind. The only interest they have in their mind is their own, lining their pockets with money from our fucking wallets. I mean, don't you find it a little weird which side the fucking political assassination attempts are coming from? I know you think you're sitting on some sort of moral high horse, but I assure you, you are sitting on a communistic donkey. And on that note, do you know why the Democratic symbol is a donkey? I'll give you a second to loosen your braids a little bit so you can let some blood flow to your fucking brain so you can take in this information. We all know Andrew Jackson, the horrible Democratic president who did some horrible shit during his presidency. Well, when he was running in 1828 on some crazy-ass fucking ideas like the forced removal of Native Americans from the lands and forcing them onto reservations, which eventually led to the Trail of Tears, maybe you should fucking look that up, his opponents called him a jackass, and he thought it was funny, so he embraced it and made the donkey the symbol of his campaign. Fast forward to the 1870s when a man named Thomas Nast ended up politicizing the cartoon, and the donkey ended up becoming the symbol of the Democratic Party. I guess my message with this long, drawn-out rant is, don't be a jackass.
I have a bunch of handy dandy notes. I did write a bunch of stuff down. I just want to make sure I got everything off my chest on the first page. Also, everyone having an identity crisis sides with identity politics. I wonder why. So they could play victim. I probably don't say this enough on here, but if I show you any videos like a TikTok, they're usually like TikTokers that I love and support. So if you want to, please show them some love. Especially I'm going to show you a few from Willful Positivity. He's so smart. He's one of my favorite TikTokers. So yeah, if I ever show you any TikToker, feel free to go show them some support.
Hi everyone. So as an immigrant to the United States, I find myself quite lucky to have escaped the vestiges of the trauma that was imposed on Black people by the Democrat Party. And anytime I come across people who are still in the throes of that oppression, all I can say to them is that I hope you can find your way to freedom. I am not burdened by chains that were never mine to begin with. And since coming here, I made the choice not to become subject to the mental slavery, and in many cases, self-imposed mental slavery that seemed to hold people who call themselves part of the Black community back. I was created in the image of God and was privileged over the last 21 years to live in a country where my rights and my freedoms are protected by a divinely inspired constitution. I do not see myself as less than anybody, and I spend my time and my energy building the kind of society that I hope to leave for my children. I hope you one day can see your way to a mind that is rid of the trauma of your past and embrace the opportunity that is in front of you in this country and live up to your full potential, because you are a child of God, and He did not send you here to this earth to be a slave to an ideology that thousands fought to defeat, and Christ Himself will defeat one final time when He returns. I wish you the best of luck as you seek deliverance from the wiles of the evil one, who would rather keep you in the dark and keep you chained to a history that your ancestors fought to free you from. And I hope one day you will know, as I know, that the freedom you sought was right there for the taking all along.
That's another thing. The government and media loves to use identity politics because they like to pander to like the minority groups, and they want them to think you're victims. But it doesn't always work for just the minority groups. I consider myself a minority. I have a tortilla blanket. But it doesn't work for every minority group. Not everyone plays victim. Not everyone is lazy. It doesn't work like that. It usually works for like the younger generation, some minorities that do want to play victim and still want to like act like they know their ancestors. My ancestors, I'm sorry, when people pull that out of their asses, I can't. Just imagine if you had to take responsibility for like your siblings or your parents. They have their own lives and their own brains and their own beliefs. Just imagine having to take responsibility for your ancestors. I realize I have more to say. With socialism on the left, identity politics, they always try to fight for or yell at people for colonization and slavery back in the day. Well, back in the day, all countries had slavery. All countries were taken over, and you don't want to see what the Indians were doing here. I have Indian in my blood, and you don't want to. They were raping each other. They were raping children, women. They were killing each other. It was horrible what they were doing. It wasn't like in the children's book, like they taught us, where they were really good with the land and they had all these farms. No, the land looked like shit. Anywho's, every country has been colonized. Every country had slavery. But in 1854, there was a bunch of people done with slavery. They were so over slavery that they created their own political party called the Anti-Slavery Party, known today as the Republican Party. But the left back then, they were called the White Supremacy Party because they wanted slavery, because they wanted cheap labor in their fields to build stuff, in the crops, to clean their bathrooms. Skip back forward to today, where today the libs always talk about how they hate capitalism, yet they still want capitalism because they want cheap labor, because they're like, oh, we need immigrants, we need illegals because they're doing the jobs we don't want to do. It's cheap labor. They'll be in the fields, they'll be cleaning the bathrooms. We don't want to do that. And it's like, you're saying the quiet part out loud. That's what you guys were saying, when you had the KKK. Republicans had to stop that too. The Democrats always want slavery. They always want to colonize. Everything they fight for, they call everyone racist. And it's them. They're deflecting. They're always deflecting. And the other group that gets sucked into this identity politics propaganda is going to be the privileged, the ones that haven't been affected by the economy, that keeps hearing about, people are really suffering right now. The ones that, have a couple degrees, went to that big college, have a few different cars, go to vacation once a year. Those people, they feel guilty. They feel guilty for all these minorities, these poor people.
How would you define identity politics?
Well, I mean, in the terms of movies, it's the unnecessary injection of current day social issues into like a storyline where it doesn't really fit, or really the attempt to lecture the audience about what the writers feel they should believe. The exploration of, say, different political ideas is okay. It's perfectly fine. And Star Trek did it for decades. But it did it in such a way that it encouraged people to see things from a different point of view, encouraged you to think and consider different options. Whereas now it's much more prescriptive. It's, we're just going to tell you how we want you to feel. And if you don't agree with us, then you're clearly the enemy. That's not really what audiences want. I think, one, it's really patronizing to your audience to treat them with such little respect. Most of the time, people watch movies to escape. We live in a hyper-politicized world now. And most of the time with our entertainment, we just want to escape from that and have just fun, really. And it feels like that's becoming more and more difficult to reach.
Identity politics are for the cowardly victims that don't understand politics. Politics is not about your feelings. Identity politics is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Identity politics is the teachings of communist Marxist beliefs. Don't believe me? Have you been on the communist website? I'll wait. Have you read the Communist Manifesto? What does it say in the Communist Manifesto or on the communist website? It says capitalism is bad. It talks about equity, a lot about equity. Everyone has to be equal. You know, you will own nothing and be happy. Everyone will get the same amount of pay. It doesn't matter if someone stays at home and picks their nose or if someone's a doctor. Everyone, gets the equal amount. Isn't that fair? Isn't that fair? Communists loves their slogans. Okay, ever since Kamala started saying all their slogans, the communist website changed their whole website saying, we don't use slogans while still simultaneously using the same slogans. We're not going backwards, we're going forward. It's just Marxist communist slogans. Communists will always say that capitalism is bad and socialism is good. So if you hear socialism, run. Socialism, identity politics, communist, Marxist, run. It's all the same thing. And they also want to make the Bill of Rights of socialism or some shit. I was reading the whole communist website the other day. They have some weird shit on there. Okay, where am I? We will own nothing and be happy. Americans can't buy homes anymore. We all will rent. No free speech. No weapons. No guns. Communists are against all religions. They're a bunch of atheists. The equivalent of a bunch of rebellious 16-year-olds mad at their daddy issues. And remember, when they take away your Second Amendment, the First Amendment comes right afterwards. If they take away your weapons, it's not like, oh, there's so many shootings in schools. It's like, no, criminals will still get weapons. If you can't have a weapon, you can't defend yourself. And you also can't defend yourself from the government. There are some countries where you can't have alcohol because they don't want you to have glass to attack the government because they're not allowed to have weapons. Like, they know that they're outnumbered. That's why they want our weapons. And this is why it is so important for you to live in the state that shares the same beliefs as you do. That's what makes America so great, is we can vote in each state of how we want to live in the state. I read a shirt. I wrote it down. Some guy had a shirt. He was in the UK though. But his shirt said, support the state or country you live in, or live in the state or country you support. And that is so important because it's all about voting. If you want to live in a state that doesn't do like hard criminal times or decriminalization for like hard drugs, then like live in Oregon where like everyone is like ODing on the streets in front of tourists. I'm all for legalization to certain drugs. It did work in some countries. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that well in America due to our homelessness and how our government took care of it. I'm 420 friendly over here. If you've been around here long enough, I've worked in many dispensaries. Like, we cool. And if you sympathize with thieves and criminals that steal under $1,000 in merchandise, then you can live in the big blue cities like California, New York, Colorado, San Francisco. You can live in all those big blue cities and states where all the kids come in and ransack the Targets and all the stores have to close because they can't have nice things anymore because they know there's the rule. You can steal merchandise under 1,000 and you won't get any penalties. So if you sympathize with those criminals, then you can live in those states. In those same cities and states, they have big gun laws. They don't want anyone to have guns because, every time there's a school shooting, they say, we need more gun control, more gun laws, take away the guns. So everyone starts rallying behind them like, yeah, no guns. We don't want any guns. So then when you get robbed or when you get attacked and almost get raped, you don't have a knife. Some states can't even have a pepper spray. Like, I'm sorry, I don't even have a gun, so I don't know why I talk so much about it. But like, my pepper spray and knife is always on me because criminals, they still have guns. They still have knives. They don't abide by the law. Like, if they live in like California or somewhere you're not allowed to have a gun or something, like they still have one. They're criminals. And let's say you're like an indecisive female. I'm very indecisive. Let's say it takes you more than 3 months to decide if you want to have a baby or not. I don't know why it would take you longer. Let's say it took you 9 months. You wanted to toss it around in your head for a little bit. Let's say you wanted to have an abortion at 9 months. Then live in those blue states and cities where they decriminalize lethal drugs and people are ODing on the street, and where you're not allowed to carry a gun or pepper spray. You can go live in those states where you can have an abortion at 9 months. Congratulations. But don't you dare, under any circumstance, decide that you want to move to a beautiful, safe, red state like Texas or Arizona and start voting like a retard like you have been in your Gotham infested city. We don't want crime. We take care of ourselves. We know how to vote. We understand politics. There are reasons why red states are more enticing to move to. California used to be a red state long time ago. Used to be the best state to live. Look at it now. It's so disgusting. I was born there. Disgusting. If every American got red pilled, or if every American learned politics, every state would be a beautiful, safe state. And everyone would be so much kinder to each other. If you got a flat tire in a red state, everyone's in a good mood. They play it forward. They care about each other. Someone's bound to pull over and help you out. In a blue state, everyone is so rude because everyone's woe me. Everyone's a victim. Everyone is a victim of their circumstance. They have no part of their reality. Nope. Woe me. They're just a bunch of narcissists, and they're usually overweight.
Because I'm a fitness creator.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I read an article, super like left-leaning article that said that people that are very enthusiastic about fitness tend to be more conservative. So I was like, let's actually find out if that's true. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm actually out here filming a video, finding that out. But you're here filming a video too.
I'm not as big as you.
Let's go, bro.
Look at this
Come
man.
on, man. We out here getting some games, bro.
A lot of people out here are going to be voting for Kamala Harris.
Yes. So you'll be... have you heard of identity politics?
Yeah.
So what happens in New York City, and it happened to me too when I was in college, is like we tend to vote out of emotions. So there'll be like a headline about something, and automatically it triggers our emotions, and without any investigation, without any real work, we just say, oh, I'm voting for that guy because this other person hates Puerto Ricans, whatever the case is, and that's really what's happened. What happened with me is, through my transition in fitness, I stopped making excuses for myself, and then I started like prying and like investigating, watching some videos, and I would notice that one news outlet will take like a 5-second or 10-second clip of something, and actually sway people to think one way, but then when I actually pulled up the full-length video, I'm like, oh, this is bullshit. You guys are lying to me.
You're Puerto Rican?
Yes, I'm
We
Puerto
talked
Rican.
to a lot of Latinos, we talked to a lot of African Americans, and a lot of times when we ask them why they're going to vote for Kamala, they'll say, first female black president. Should people be voting on race?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And again, that's the identity politics where we don't see if this person's agenda or their policies is going to positively or negatively reflect our day-to-day life. We just say, oh, brown, oh, I vote this way, like we're fucking gorillas. No, that's not how you do things. And unfortunately, until people get educated and actually do the legwork, you have to actually do the legwork to like look up these videos and fully read it.
What I want to say about you though is, okay, what he said was totally true, because 4 years ago, this is when I got all involved in this, because I started noticing how the news will just say one thing and it's just one little tiny clip, and then they turn it to something huge. But if you actually do your research on it, you will find out that one little clip that they're saying is not true. It's like one tiny little part, and that is what most of Americans see, is this one tiny part. But if you actually do research on things and learn about things, you will actually start to know the truth. So I appreciate that you said that.
Yes.
And your energy.
And listen, it's not too late for people like me, just because it's like an expectation where, like, because I grew up on food stamps, I grew up in the hood, and it's like we're like cattle where we think that just because we voted this way our entire life, we have to continue voting this way, and that's not the fact. And I've completely denounced almost all of the values and morals that I grew up with. And it could be scary to do that, but on the other side of that is true freedom as an American. That's my whole take.
You really have to learn about what you're voting for. You just don't go because your grandpa has always voted Democrat or Republican. Either way, it goes either way. You need to learn and understand what exactly is going on. And I am a witness of that because that is what I've been doing the last 4 years. I've really learned a lot. So thank you.
Hey, we love it, man.
Congrats, man. Yo,
Send me your info.
We got so off track. Okay, let's see. Identity politics is a trick for low IQ people. Sorry, I know it's not nice to say, but I don't know other ways to say it. They play on your emotions. Only a child will play that trick. Identity politics, woke, socialism, communists, Marxists, they're all the same thing. It's all under racism, sexism. It's just to get people to divide so they could be in charge. We're fighting, we're poor. That doesn't help anyone else. I mean, we're all slaves here. Throw us a little bone. Make us act like we have some freedom. Like, let us own homes again. Let us collect rainwater. That would be fun, right? I hope you guys aren't too burnt out with these political videos. I'm sorry. It's just a big election year and it's so important. Please vote if you haven't already. Like this one if you haven't. Subscribe if you want to come chit chat later, and I'll see you in the next one. Boing, 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 boing.
Ladies and gentlemen.